So, Outriders was just recently announced, a new IP and a new game for the next generation of consoles from Square Enix. This game looks interesting, but it also does kind of look a lot like Destiny, which is alright. But I'm here today to give you the quick rundown of what it's about, what's the story focusing on, and what can we expect from this game in the future. Look, basically Outriders is just a third-person RPG shooter, and it's set in a world where sci-fi meets savagery, as Square Enix put it themselves. And it looks interesting, alright? It looks kind of cool, it looks a little different, but it also looks very similar to what we've seen in the past. It's being developed by a studio called People Can Fly. They've worked on games like Bulletstorm, Gears of War, and even Fortnite, plus many other games that we haven't really heard much of. And, you know, this looks interesting, it seems fun, and it looks to be kind of very similar to other games we've seen in the past, but, you know, going back to that old RPG shooter is always nice to see. And these games sell really well, and it'll probably work out extremely well for the next generations of consoles. The game is completely original, and, you know, you can play it solo if you want, but they also encourage co-op with 2 other players, but you can play it however you want as well. And it's a big adventure-filled kind of game. Like I said, we've seen many of these in the past. But the story, however, is somewhat original, and it focuses on kind of the destruction of Earth and how the Outriders have left Earth and are now exploring the stars and have gone on to other planets to live somewhere that isn't completely destroyed like Earth is. Now, the whole game takes place on a planet called Enoch, and you play as an Outrider who's been sent onto this planet to make sure that it's safe and able to be livable for the other humans that have left Earth. And, you know, it seems cool on Enoch, and the planet looks very beautiful, and there's lots of wildlife, and it seems passive, but the Outriders want to investigate certain things, so on and so on. And, you know, it goes to shit because the game would not be interesting if there wasn't conflict happening, and it'd be a pretty boring third-person shooter. The character you play as in this game is actually completely customizable, which is pretty cool. I mean, once again, this game doesn't seem really that special in lots of ways. I mean, the story sounds interesting, it sounds unique, and it's something we haven't really seen before. I mean, it takes somewhat inspiration from Outer Worlds, but with that being said, obviously they didn't really know the story that was going on with Outer Worlds, but the idea of humans leaving Earth and having to find a new place to live has obviously, you know, been kind of used in this story as well. And another thing that kind of seems interesting is that in the middle of all this shit going down and checking what's going on with the planet, it seems beautiful, it seems peaceful, you're kind of suspended in this 30-year cryostasis and you wake up and it is just all gone to shit, like I said earlier. And, you know, this is a cool premise, I think. Again, very similar to Outer Worlds, but it's a third-person RPG shooter and not a first-person shooter, and this game looks a lot more serious and less comedic than Outer Worlds did. The combat in this game isn't extremely special, but there are these 3 classes you can kind of pick from. A Pyromancer, which, you know, the name says it all. You use fire in combat, obviously. Then there's another class that seems a little interesting. It's called the Trickster. The Trickster's a lot faster, he's maneuverable, and he actually uses this time manipulation, and, you know, it looks very cool from the gameplay from what I've seen, and that's probably the class I'll be picking. And then thirdly, there's another class called the Devastator, and it's a very powerful brute force kind of class, and, you know, use gravity manipulation and very, very strong armor. And, you know, these classes, they're not extremely special. I mean, the Trickster sounds pretty cool, I will say, but the other 2 are kind of whatever. Like, I'm going to be very honest, this game does seem like many other games we've seen in the past, and I've said that a lot in this video. But my overall thoughts are, we do not need more RPG shooters. Because not only are we getting Outriders in the future, we are also getting another game as well that was announced at the VGAs, which is Godfall. And that was another game where I was like, another RPG looter shooter kind of game. It's not like we don't have heaps of those. So I'm not 100% really excited for Outriders. I'm very fatigued of this genre. But with that being said, I know there's many people out there that love these kinds of games, and these are the kinds of games that they always play. And that's cool, and I'm very happy for you, but these games aren't for me, necessarily. And I'm going to be playing this game purely for the story, just because the story seems very, very interesting to me. And the game doesn't look to be a bad game either. It looks to be a quality game that doesn't look like it's going to play out like Anthem did, where that game to me looked interesting, and then I seen the reviews and what everyone was saying about it, and I was like, holy fuck, this game's a piece of shit, do not buy this game. It's one of the worst games ever made for the PS4 and Xbox One. So we may get a similar kind of thing going on here with Outriders, but I doubt it, because I think Anthem is a cautionary tale to other developers where it's like, don't promise a different game than what you're advertising, because if you release that game and it's a piece of shit and it's empty and parts of your demo don't even exist in the game, you're going to cop a lot of shit from not only the community but from reviewers and other people alike that aren't scared to shit talk your game in a community where, like, let's be honest, people try to be very nice when they're critiquing a game. But also be cautious of this game, because it's happened in the past where there's looter shooter RPG games, and I always find that what they promise you isn't exactly what you get. But Square Enix are an alright kind of publisher. They usually publish decent games that aren't shit, and they'll publish a really good game every now and again. And I'm not at all really worried about how the combat's going to work in this game, because the developers at People Can Fly have worked on previous third-person shooters like Gears of War and Fortnite, so I'm not really too worried about how the game's combat's going to play out, because I think it'll work out really well. And the combat in the gameplay that we've seen looks fucking really interesting, especially with the Trickster, like I said earlier. So, like I said, we've seen a lot of these kinds of things in the past. Just be careful, and we'll wait and see. But Square Enix, great publishers. People Can Fly seem to be really cool developers. I haven't really played any of their games, but they've worked on previous titles in the very similar genre, so I'm not too worried about the game and how it'll play out. I have been Seth from Silver Soul Gaming. I'm a bit sick this week, so sorry for that if I sound like I'm about to cough or my throat sounds a little fucky, because it is a little fucky. Make sure you go check out all the links below for our website, our Twitch, my Twitter, Silver Soul Gaming's Twitter. Everything Silver Soul Gaming's in the description. Make sure you give this video a like, you subscribe if you like this kind of content. And there'll be more content coming this week, because I kind of missed an upload last week. So there'll be another video hopefully this week if I don't get too stuck up with school or other things in my life. And yeah, I'll see you guys later this week for another video.